Well, as we have previously discussed, Judges shows Israel's cycle of sin. And this cycle of sin doesn't go away. It is a constant problem that shows just how fickle their faith is at the moment. Fickle. What does that word mean? It means that there's a lack of stability. It means that there's a lack of consistency. And so we see that being played out here in the book of Judges. So far, we've seen where they have cried out to God, and God has answered them each time they've cried out for deliverance. But would the Lord continue to save? And so thinking about that, I want to read Judges chapter 10, verse 6 through 16 today. Then the Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They worshiped the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and the gods of Aram, Sidon, and Moab, and the gods of the Ammonites and the Philistines. They abandoned the Lord and did not worship him. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he sold them to the Philistines and the Ammonites. They shattered and crushed the Israelites that year, and for 18 years they did the same to all the Israelites who were on the other side of the Jordan in the land of the Amorites in Gilead. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim. Israel was greatly oppressed. So they cried out to the Lord, saying, "We have sinned against you. We have abandoned our God and worshiped the Baals." And the Lord said to the Israelites, "When the Egyptians, Amorites, Ammonites, Philistines, Sidonians, Amalekites, and Maonites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, did I not deliver you from them? But you have abandoned me and worshipped other gods. Therefore, I will not deliver you again. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them deliver you whenever you are oppressed." But the Israelites said, "We have sinned. Deal with us as you see fit. Only rescue us today." So they got rid of the foreign gods among them and worshiped the Lord, and he became weary of Israel's misery. And so here we see in God's word where once again Israel turns away from the Lord. They turn to worship other gods, and then they began to suffer for that. God handed them over in verse 7 through 10 for them to suffer at the hands of the Philistines and the Ammonites. And when Israel cried out to the Lord, up to this point, he has said, "Yes, I'll deliver you." But the Lord initially refused there in verse 11 through 13. In fact, I love what verse 14 says. "These gods you have chosen, you go cry out to them now." They realized their sin. And in verse 15 and 16, they got rid of their gods. And you see God's heart begin to turn there in verse 16, where he said he began to grow weary of their misery that they were facing. And so what we see here is that the Israelites, they were living how they wanted to live. And when they got in trouble, they ran to God to deliver them. And I wonder how many people are living like that today. They're not living under the lordship of God, but they're living to do what they want to do. And when they get in trouble, then they run to God. Let me challenge you and challenge I as well. Let us not be Christians who have a fickle faith. Join me again tomorrow as we continue in the book of Judges.